Hey, I wanted to spend a little bit of time giving you my backstory so you understand why I became an investor, why I became a real estate agent, opened the brokerage, opened the property management side to my company. I can remember when I was little, I must have been 6 or 7 years old. My Uncle Vinny and my Uncle Phil, they're actually my great uncles, were discussing wealth and how to build wealth, and they had been talking about real estate being the true path to wealth. They owned a few rental properties. I even think they owned a 10 unit together. So from that day on, it really stuck with me that owning investments in real estate was the right path to go, and I became super interested. I can remember going into the newspaper and the classifieds and circling all of the 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses and condos and this and that. I was little and I was already looking at it. That was the best we can do, and it had a brief description on there with the price on there, the square footage if you were lucky, and that's all it was, a little blurb and a phone number to call. And I can remember going through there for years, forever. I was doing that because I was so interested in real estate. So that's where my journey began. I started becoming educated. A few years later, I started reading books on real estate, on investing, flipping. I've read hundreds or listened to hundreds of books, read all kinds of blogs, listened to YouTube videos, watch YouTube videos. This is obviously later. It was always books in the beginning because we didn't really have internet at the time. So I started investing. 2006, I think, was my first investment property that I purchased. Pretty much the worst time you can ever buy, just because the market was completely at its peak. And then we saw a downturn right after that. I learned a ton of lessons, so many lessons from that first rental property, because I went through the worst time you could possibly go through. And I still had that property cash flowing, and I was still able to hold on to it throughout the worst time that you can ever see in real estate, at least in our lifetime. So that was a lot of valuable lessons. I got my license only because I felt like agents that I was working with were super uneducated. They did not know anything about investing whatsoever. They didn't even know about real estate. They didn't understand how it operated or how it worked. I obviously was way more educated with real estate than they were from all the books that I had read and all the years of trying to understand real estate. So I got my license for that reason, and then also to save some money. Listen, I'm gonna save 3% commission when I go to sell my flips, and on the buy side, I'm gonna save 3%, and if I hold it, I'm still gonna, earn that 3% right there. So that was the other reason. What happened was my business exploded. I was not expecting to be a real estate agent. I was a real estate investor. But because of my knowledge in real estate, and I'm super ethical, super honest with people, people just started reaching out to me like, hey, I see that you're doing real estate. Can you please help me? You're educated, you're honest. And the business just exploded. I was Century 21's #1 agent, beating out people that were there for 20, 30 years in my first year. My second year as well, not only in sales, but also in listings. So the state of Florida requires you to be a licensed agent for 2 years before you can become a broker. So that's what I did. After 2 years, I took my test, I passed. In 2.5 years, I opened up my brokerage. So that's a little bit of the backstory on why I became a real estate investor, and then also a real estate owner and broker. On the property management side, I'll give you a brief part on that, but we'll talk about that in another video. There was a huge need for educated property managers in the industry. It was apparent as an investor that there was nobody out there that understood property management. Now, over years, they probably gained some experience, but property managers aren't typically investors. They're real estate agents that now manage properties. So it was the same thing. They didn't really understand what you have to do in order to manage a property. I've been doing it for 10, 15 years by then, and that's why I got into that portion. So again, a little bit of the backstory on why I opened the brokerage, how I got into real estate, and why it works for me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, 239-220-0735. Thanks so much.